Whatever. Shut up.
West Coast football.
I can forget a lot of things. I was on that 2-10 team, Keith. Let's not forget that. I don't think I've stopped. Yeah, I don't think I've stopped playing video games since. If we're just gonna go ahead and we'll get out in front of it.
We'll get there. We're going to get there, no doubt. We're going to start with that. I'll dive into a little college football talk, especially because, I haven't been on the show in 5 weeks. So I want to give my take, of course. But first off, if you're watching us right now, I need you to stop what you're doing. Subscribe to the YouTube channel right here below me. I think maybe I can't tell if I'm close to the button. But keep in touch with the show. Get updated with new shows each week across the network with now 5 shows on the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Boys, we have a first-time guest tonight. We're football nerds. We own that. And I think our guest would take it as a compliment that I'm going to also describe him in such a way. You hear his voice on the airwaves of 93.9 The Ville weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on From the Pink Seats podcast, Steve Rummage. Steve, how we doing?
Man, it is good to finally be on here, talk a little football. What about this backdrop? It's all my wife's accomplishments. Then I'm a radio host. I'm like, whatever,
there
man.
You go.
Look,
I'm excited, man.
This week, my wife has been just boots on the ground covering TBT for us. I've been home with the kids. We've swapped roles, and I think it might stay that way, man. And I'm at the point where I'm here for it. So
She's a star, man.
That's right. We celebrate the stars that are our wives on this show.
That was awesome seeing her run after Trez. That was awesome.
It was fantastic to watch for me. The funniest thing before we get into talking a little football, which of course is the topic of the hour here on the show tonight. My daughter, Steve, you'll get a kick out of this. I'm sure your son is the same. Your kids are the same way watching you on games when you're covering them.
Sure.
My daughter was in tears, just wanting to see her mom on TV, until we finally found her. She's like, "Where is she?" And then finally he sees her. She's taking 1,000 pictures. Her world was made seeing her on TV. So yes, fantastic weekend. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, college football, the video game, is out, and we have, I'm sure, all been playing it. Raise your hand if you've played it nonstop since it came out.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, that makes 4 of us. I like I said, I haven't gotten to talk to you guys a ton about this. I know our group chat from the first day the game came out, where we all, of course, forked up the $100. Steve, I'm sure you did the same to get the game early. Yeah, I couldn't wait.
Absolutely.
Man. My wife was like, "Why do you need to do that?" Because I got to. What do you mean?
I did it 2 hours before the game even released. I think you did the same thing, Jacob. We pulled the trigger that Monday on pre-ordering it.
Yeah. You did it, and then I'm like, all right, man, I got to do it.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck it. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and watch these videos of everyone else playing the game.
Exactly. So I'll just kind of lob this question up, and each one of you can kind of run with it. But does it live up to the hype? What's your favorite part? What have you been doing? Do you want to give us an update on where you are in your dynasties? Wherever you want to go, Steve, you're the guest of the night.
Yeah.
Tell me what you've been doing on the game. Live up to the hype. What do you think?
Listen, here, I think it lived up to the hype, and I'll tell you why. Because it is a new feeling game, but they really kept the. I still feel like I'm playing college football. It's almost like if it had kept going, I think this is where we would be. So it was I liked that it still felt like college football, because I kind of thought it was going to be Madden with college football. Yeah. And I was like, whatever. I don't care. It could have been Tecmo Bowl when I was going to play it. Whatever. But it was cool, man, that they really did that. And they knocked it out of the park with the stadiums. I'm a stadium nerd. I love first time we went to Orlando, we passed Gainesville. I told my wife, I was like, we're gonna stop at the Swamp. I just want to see it. I love stadiums. So the first day, I played at all kinds of different stadiums just to get the atmospheres, because they were so spot on with them. Well, at least they were spot on with Louisville. So I was like, well, everyone must be pretty close to a game time atmosphere there. So yeah, man, I've had a blast with all that. And then the dynasty mode's great. All of it is just A+. Fantastic.
I think I've completed one dynasty with Louisville, went undefeated in the playoffs, all that good stuff. I didn't win a Heisman with Shough, which was very surprising, throwing for 4,000 something yards. But Pierce in season 2, I'm about halfway in on season 2. Pierce is phenomenal. Can
you say that name a few more times, Vince, just for the algorithm?
Oh, yeah. Pierce Clarkson, exactly. But, seriously, that lived up to the hype. That was fun. Donald Chaney's fun to use on there. I love how football accurate it is. I mean, you can actually sit back and look at 2 high safeties, 1 high safeties, the corners playing off or press and stuff like that, and it's really, really, really detailed. I was texting you guys. One thing that just small little things that I love. Whenever a receiver caught a ball out of bounds for me, he was running towards like the photographers and the film crew on the sidelines and stuff, and he jumped over him instead of just running through it like a normal NPC type, video game glitch deal. I was like, wow, that's something you never see in games. It's really detailed, and I love it. Keith, I know you're extremely happy that Notre Dame released new uniforms, and EA just wasn't.
They leaked the uniform. So, yeah, that was one of my worries for a little bit of background. When it came out, I'm like, Notre Dame's never had a gold shoulder patch. It's white. Are they leaking uniforms or are they not paying attention? So they leaked the uniform, but honestly, I'm glad. It's like, okay, they are paying attention. But a question for you guys before I dive into my experience. What difficulty are you all playing on?
Varsity until I can figure out how to tackle somebody.
Little varsity and All-American. A mix of the both. It kind of varsity got really, once y'all play like a full season and really dive in, it'll become really easy. You'll start putting up 40-something points, and defense will become a lot easier, Jacob.
Yeah.
And you want that little bit of a challenge. But Heisman is just, I played 1 game on Heisman. No, never again. Yeah. I'm good. Good. I'm good.
So, that's what I was going to say. I capped out at All-American because I won 2 games on All-American.
Right.
And then I was like, let me try Heisman. And it is like Vince, you can speak to this. The jump from high school to college.
Oh, yeah.
When you're like, oh, God. Yeah. That's how I felt. So
it really like exposes you saw Travis Hunter on a stream giving shit to his own offensive lineman. Like, that's kind of how it is in real life. I mean, it's pretty spot on accurate to how everybody's playing and stuff. It's wild. I mean, It's also fun to like find myself being like, damn, Renato, why'd you not get that block? Or Shough, why didn't you hit that? I mean, that's a ball you should be hitting right there. And it's like, I don't know. Bitching at actual players instead of number 15 or number 18 or whatever is really fun to me too.
So, as the resident Heisman player, it's hard out in these streets. So I've got a dynasty going and a road to glory going. And of course, road to glory, I'm like, okay, 2-star, underdog. Dog, underdog's got hands. It's like my GPA is a 1.7 because I'm spending all of my time practicing so I don't suck. And then, I finally committed on a couple of playbooks for offensive, defensive scheme, got to a dynasty mode, finally head coach in Kent State. And one thing they don't tell you about Kent State, and you don't know unless you're a sicko who watches way too much G5 football like me, their athletic director hates their football team or they're strapped for cash because their first 4 games, their non-con every year is like 3 trips to hell and then an FCS school. It's miserable. Like year 1, it's like this year, it's Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and Penn State are Kent State's non-con. It's just like, why?
Hey, you got to take that check, buddy.
What?
That check will fund your athletic department for a full year, just for 3 ass whoopings.
Yeah, that's true.
Keith, you mentioned playbooks. What's your all's go-to playbook? I text you all, and like listeners will probably laugh at me, but I use App State's playbook because I know the plays. Like it's the back of my hand, and I'm sure guys that play for Petrino probably use. Where's he at? Arkansas. Arkansas's playbook because it's a lot of this. That's another thing they nail were the playbooks. It's very spot on.
I was using Wake Forest actually.
Yeah.
I know. It was, but here's the thing: like, if Donald Chaney and Colin Lacey are as good as they are on the game,
I
know we're gonna talk over unders later, but like, I'm way over.
Right. I think that might have been one of the first things I texted everyone is like, if Colin Lacey is this good, wow. And I think it was Presley. He was like, dude, it's a video game. I'm like, I know, but like, it's the game, and it's good. We're going.
Chris
far.
Bell in the slot. Bell in the slot too. That's just not realistic, nor is it fair.
Right, exactly. My favorite content so far from the game coming out has been the memes of the different play calls, and one was like, "If nobody's got my back, this does," and it was the pass jet sweep or whatever. Yeah, run that probably every 3 or 4 plays. Fantastic play. Might be overtaking the slant, guys. I don't know. I mean, it's unstoppable.
And that was a go-to Satterfield play. That's how Malik got his completion percentage and that little pass touch to Tutu.
Yeah, you ain't going over the middle on Heisman.
yeah, right. That's one thing offensively. So, we talked about the levels. Offensively, I can do whatever I want. I feel like I'm not much of an interception thrower. I feel like I've really mastered offense, but I can't take the level up because of the defense. No matter how hard I try, like I'm out here in these streets watching videos on YouTube of how to make adjustments pre-snap, and then I'm trying to do it, and it's not working. I can't figure it out. I'm about to smash my controller. My 6-year-old is like, "Dad, what's going on?" Like it's been a real challenge for your boy trying to figure out how to play defense.
Don't you yell at football enough, Dad?
Yeah, but so far it has lived up to the hype in every regard. Outside of the fact, I don't know if you all have had this issue, but I've like almost gotten to the point where I am afraid to do any type of super simulation to get through, like when it's a blowout, because my PlayStation 5 freezes every time. And I don't know if it's me. I've seen other people complaining about it and hoping that that's in the patch that College Sport or that EA Sports is going to roll out. But I mean, I'm out here playing games and it's like 72-3, and I'm like, can I just be done with this? No, I go to Super Sim, boom, pause. We just got panorama of the field. So it's been a struggle a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
I haven't had that issue except for like 1 or 2 games where it's frozen on me. And I was disappointed because it was one of those online dynasties things where it's like, oh man, it's not going to save my spot. I'm going to have to replay this entire game.
Or you're dominating a team in which you maybe thought you might struggle with or something. I don't know, but that's been the first part of the game that's kind of bugged me. So anyways, let's put the video game talk down for a little bit. Let's actually talk some football. ACC Media Day in Charlotte happening right now. That is where Matt McGavick is out there doing some Big J journalism tonight. I'm proud of my boy.
Yeah.
He's got a laptop. He definitely could have got on a freaking Zoom call. This is absolutely ridiculous.
This is working this is what being a journalist is all about. You work a long day, and then you can't even come on your own show to talk about all the football you just covered.
He's networking.
EMAC was in a hotel after Duke. Remember that, Jacob?
Yeah,
had a whole day of actual ACC Duke stuff to do, and I mean, I know it's not very strenuous covering Duke, but I mean, it was still a full day of work.
That's right.
By the way, I'm convinced they could do a press conference in Alaska, and Matt's bald head would be right there in the front.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
Oh yeah. Everywhere, man.
Yeah. I told my wife when she showed up to TBT, just look for bald Matt in the front row, and that's where you'll know where your seat is. And sure enough, it's like his a shining light guiding her along her way to get ready to go. But Matt is out in Charlotte covering Media Day. Ashton Gillotte, Quincy Riley, and Tyler Shough out there. I think the obvious 3 choices. To be honest, I would love if they'd send the 3 least obvious choices. Give me 3 guys that I don't know. You know what I mean? To where this could be a little fun. Guys that maybe are a little bit media trained, but I think it would be fun to outside of the big 3 of your team, to have some guys out there that we don't know. But there's a lot of different ways to go with this. So the question I'm going to ask is, did we learn anything? And one thing I want to note, per Matt, I got the scoop before the show. We will not get the rankings for the ACC until the 31st of July, the preseason media rankings, and we will not get the all ACC teams until August 1st. So we will not, I thought we would have that tonight. I went looking for it. It did not exist. Shame on me for not knowing that. So did we learn anything from 2024 Media Day? Steve, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I think we learned about Tyler Shough for one. I mean, for me, it was the 3 best players on the team, because I'm totally with you. As far as Quincy and Ashton, those guys, you want to hear from them. It's fun because they come back. But in this new era of the transfer portal, there's guys that are going to Media Day. I mean, this is 2 years in a row now that we don't know. So Tyler Shough gets up there and he does a great press conference, and some of the things that he was breaking down and talking about his team and everything, it was like, okay, I'm getting to know my quarterback. I'm knowing kind of what drives him, where his head's at. Does he have a personality? It was really fun kind of getting introduced to him, because we know a little bit, but not that in depth. You know what I'm saying? And in this era, it's like you're watching other teams. And I mean, I remember going, oh my God, like that guy plays there now? Oh yeah, I forgot that. You're watching the press conferences, you're watching, I mean, Miami, you know what I'm saying? You're hearing Cam Ward, you're hearing guys that you're like, these are names that were
DJU at Florida State. I mean, that's
JU, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's crazy, man. So yeah, that was kind of my thing. The other thing for me was Jeff Brom low key loves this team. Like you can tell and everything, and he done it again the other night. I'm watching that. We're listening to him. We carried that press conference live, and I'm like, he smirks almost like at times when he talks about this team, and it's like, okay, he feels like he's sitting on something here.
Right. For me, did we learn anything from ACC Media Day? I mean, Jacob, y'all were, whenever you text this, I was like, I don't know. I feel like I was reaching a little bit, but at the same time, I feel like I wasn't, because Jeff's that guy that you really have to look into what he's saying. And whenever he said, don't worry about giving up big plays, play aggressive, when speaking about the defense, for me, I'm like, okay, that probably means that this defense, guys like Quincy Riley, Ashton Gillotte, TJ Quinn, all these guys know this defense likely like it's the back of their hand now, and are going to be able to play around a lot more and move a lot more. He talked about having different formations and stuff in the defense, or being able to add new things as the year goes on. And we've been talking about on our show, Steve, like it would be awesome to see Ashton in the zero technique and get another rusher on the field, because Ashton can move that well. So it's like our little things like that. Are we going to see that? I doubt we'll see it early in the season. But once we get to conference play and stuff, I mean, I would not be surprised to see different kind of wrinkles like that. And I mean, the defense is going to be flying around the field, which hearing Jeff Brom talk about the defense and being excited about defense is pretty cool for me.
Yeah, right. And for me, I don't think we learned much of anything from the last couple of days outside of the fact that, things I think we already knew. Jeff Brom is very excited and believes in this team, thinks that they all want one thing. And they all said this. They all want to win. That's the thing. They all mentioned it. They want to win. And I think that he believes that his team is taking that message to heart and putting in the work this offseason, kind of stepping away from the actual talk. I still believe that everyone thinks Louisville is below FSU and Clemson. Nothing's changed. I think when you hear people talk about Louisville, it was, they went with, this far, they went to the ACC championship, but that schedule, there's always a but. And I think this ACC Media Day, we're seeing that again. We won't get the ACC preseason rankings, as I mentioned, until the 31st. But Louisville,
I'm fine with the but, man.
Like, sure, I understand.
Like the but should be there at this point, just because we haven't done it consistently enough with Jeff Brom. I mean, we didn't do it consistently enough with Sat. I mean, it's consistency is the name of the game.
Yeah. And you're turning a lot of your team over. And I think that's, obviously there's a lot of things that can go into that and how that comes together. But then, Tyler Shough, I've said this all off season. If you want to get Jeff Brom away from talking about nothing, ask him about Tyler Shough. I remember somebody asked him about the wedding, and we ended up with like a 5-minute monologue about how he loved Tyler Shough. And I'm like, okay, all right, this guy, like, this is his guy. It's not like Jack Plummer, where we joked in the preseason agreement was, Coach, you can't bench me again. I'll come to Louisville, can't bench me again. My ego can't take it. With this one, I think Jeff is extremely excited and sees the potential. But I still believe the best route for this team is going to be running the football and playing sound defense. We're going to get in and breaking a lot of that down. But with all these fancy weapons, Matt asked him about the tight ends. Jeff didn't really say much. I think that was calculated. I think that what I'm really excited about is seeing this team continue to be able to win the ball game, the big games with defense and running the football.
So a lot of you guys have talked on a couple of things I have, so I will just one, I'll say the first thing I learned is Jeff Brom's still a master of coach speak. If you need someone to fill 5 minutes and not say anything of substance, he's got you covered. Other things I picked up that aren't necessarily Louisville specific, but Jim Phillips, awfully proud of being in third place right now in the conference speak, if you listen to his opening remarks before ACC Media Day. And it's one of those things that frustrates me. It's like, oh, yeah, you're in third place and you're really relying on ESPN to keep it that way. But the gap's shrinking. Like Big 12, that's a banger conference that just doesn't have one or two top talent teams. So that was a bit frustrating, as well as they were showing off each team's jersey earlier today, and I noticed they still have the wrong Louisville jersey. with the old S on it. So our athletic department, we got to get one sent down to them, or maybe they just don't care because we're.
No, I'll volunteer next year to take it to Charlotte. Okay, I'll take it. Okay,
we're not. I don't know. We're not a North Carolina school, so maybe they don't care about us like that.
Jesus. Yeah, I think that conversation on Jim Phillips is one that I don't think we've talked about enough. One of the things that he said that really stood out to me when talking about the Big 12 and the equity was, instead of the perception of what could come, the value of the cash flow, his comment was, it comes with a price. Like, that shows to me, which is true in some regards, but it shows the lack of innovation with him, which I think was part of what, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like when he stepped over from his role to become the commissioner, there was this thought that he might help to, elevate and be innovative. And he's done everything but that, and continues to stomp on, trying to find a way to build a stronger ACC. It's frustrating. And I would imagine Josh Hurd has got to be frustrated, and the other teams in this conference. Obviously, we know about Clemson and FSU, but he's got to do better, man. He's got to do better.
I can take my frustrations back with Jim Phillips back to the COVID season when we let Notre Dame play with us instead of actually using our leverage and forcing them to become a actual full-time member.
That was a fun game.
Yeah. And they should be a full-time conference member instead of this, we'll give you 5 or 6 games a season and we'll let you pick what 2 of the 3 members we let join our conference. Like, he's bending over backwards to appease Notre Dame, and the one opportunity we had to actually use leverage to take advantage of that brand. And if we did absorb them during COVID and actually make them a full member, who knows what the ACC looks like today?
It's a good way to get into heaven, Keith. Appease Notre Dame, get into heaven.
He's got the game plan, man.
That's how you do it. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where he almost sounds like he's trusting in the grant of rights, which is fair. I mean, that's going to be tough to get out of. I mean, FSU is finding that out. I think they thought they would just cry their way out of it, and you're not going to. I mean, it's pretty binding,
What do you mean?
I was like,
who signed that? We didn't sign that.
I know. Yeah, I was like, that's a bold plan. But it's one of those things where I just have zero confidence that this conference holds together when it's all said and done. Now, I don't know if that's the next 2 years, 3 years, but 10 years down the road for sure, I'm like, I don't see Louisville in this conference. I don't know that Clemson and if one of those do find their way out, this thing will scatter. So it just doesn't feel, I don't know, man. It don't feel solid to me. And he didn't make me feel any better.
It's like a handshake. Feels like very much a verbal agreement.
Like the Alliance.
Yeah, the Alliance.
Oh my God. Yeah. Did you all see the toughest non-conference schedule banner?
No, I did not.
What?
This is news
You
to
didn't
me.
see that? You didn't see that banner? Oh my gosh. I got to
Penn State got a banner?
No, there was a banner at ACC Media Day. It was behind EMAC and them.
Oh my
It literally said toughest non-conference schedule.
Oh my God! So they're banner. They need to pull the Florida State COVID basketball banner out and put it next to that, man.
Exactly.
Not as much weight.
The Lakers in-season tournament.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think the ACC, like you mentioned, is falling apart. Really, I mean, it's held together right now by some legal documents, and it seems like schools have been able to get around that.
To be contrarian for just a point, though, where teams seem to be trying to flee the ACC to get out the door, with the performance incentive payment model, if they take some other opportunities, I agree with not relying on private equity just because that's going to open the bridge to a bunch of problems you don't want.
What, like cartel running conferences? We got Chapo.
Well, no, like, hey, these non-revenue sports aren't profitable, cut them. So, but the length of time
for the YouTube audience, that's the banner. That's we're all just here to have fun. ACC banner.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for the length that this contract goes, and we saw it with like NBA TV negotiations, like it feels like we're right about at the precipice of where this TV market bubble, it might be bursting. So who knows? By the time these other conferences come back for their next round of TV negotiations, the ACC might be the one sitting pretty. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not, because we're all addicted to our sugar smack yum yum of sports. But it is something to take into account with the security of the long-term deal.
I'm more of a just line it up, 11 on 11. Like, I mean, football is football. We're going to have, 14 games on the schedule. I don't give a damn who it is. And I'm sure that's how Jeff probably thinks too. But I'm sure he wants
until you become Oregon State. You feel that way until that's your reality. And then you're lining up.
We will never be Oregon State. We win too many games. We're too big of a market. I haven't watched an Oregon State game in.
You also don't think the Pac-12 isn't real.
Exactly.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. I don't acknowledge Pac-12 teams. That's the thing, Keith. Steve. Yeah.
Well, there's only 2 of them, so
right.
Well, there's certain things I stand on, and West Coast football is not one of those things, and Duke football is also not one of those things.
What are you gonna do when a top 10 Ohio State team has to travel to USC and the game is at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock on Fox? Is that real football to you now?
That's the thing. That's the thing is I think Ryan Day's a fraud too.
So all right. You're focusing too much on the school.
That's like.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
They talked about USC or somebody having to travel to Northwestern for an 11 o'clock Saturday game or one of those like really early ones, and that's going to be miserable for them. But I mean, I just don't. I think they play a soft brand of football out there. I think if you hit them in the mouth a couple of times, they'll cave. And I mean, my gripe with Duke is a basketball school. They always have been. They don't give a damn about football. They never will.
Oh, how quickly we forget the Holiday Bowl.
Whatever. Shut up.
West Coast football.
I can forget a lot of things. I was on that 2-10 team, Keith. Let's not forget that.
Selective memory. One of your greatest skills, no doubt. All right, let's transition here. We'll go into the next part of the show. And it's not off-season content until you break out the lists. And me personally, I'm a big fan of lists. I have multiple notebooks full of to-do lists for work. And business, and then I've got my grocery list. I've got my kids, the things they need, their list, and then of course the sports list, which are just a plenty right now, and they make for great off-season content. Some of the best outside of Mount Rushmore's, Vince. I think that some would argue that Mount Rushmore's go hand in hand for off-season
Mount
content.
Rushmore's are peak.
Yeah, peak off-season content.
Yes.
Well, here's what we want to do. I want to dive into some lists tonight of our own. In a segment we're going to call 3 top threes. We're going to go through 3 categories and identify the top 3 in each of these, just to kind of start talking about next season. I mean, we've done a ton of off-season content this year, had some great interviews, but I mean, we're almost 30 days away from football actually kicking off in Louisville. I mean, we're going to kick off football in August this year, gentlemen. Like, we don't have to wait until the Monday night, Sunday night anymore.
This is the time period I'm so thankful I'm not a part of a football team anymore. Fall camp getting ready to start. It started. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. I'm done with that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's a life I know nothing about. I can't even begin
my last season in there, fall camp came and bit me in the ass. Like, I was like, forgot the date, and I was like, it's next week. No.
See, they should have sent you to media day then, because that really would have got you ready for that year, man. Just said, all right, Vince, go.
ACC Media. I probably would have did better than Sat did on the. I wouldn't have done this much.
Yeah,
and throwing my hands up as much, and
No matter how bad Sat was at ACC Media Day, he will never be as bad as was Deshaun Foster, the coach of
Oh my God!
Just gave us a list of schools in LA. I don't know if you've ever heard of us. We're in LA. Any questions? But tonight we're going to get into our top 3. And I want to start with this one, and I can kick us off here to kind of set the tone. I'm going to go with our top 3 camp battles. I know we talk a lot about depth chart and start to look at it that way. And in the NFL, I feel like it's covered a lot more with positional camp battles because in college, so many guys play. But I wanted to go through our list of the most important camp battles that are getting ready to take place as Louisville will actually start to prepare for the season. So I'll go with my 3, and then I will let you guys go, and we can start to debate these. So for me, the number 1 on this team is running back. I know a lot of folks are really excited about Donald Chaney. I am too. But, gentlemen, the more I play college football 2025, I'm a big Mo Turner fan. And I think Mo Turner is the key to this team in a lot of ways. I know these guys are tired of hearing me talk about he has 1,000 yards receiving for me in my running back position right now. He is that kind of guy. He is going to be so electric, but I think what him and Donald Chaney offer are so vastly different in the way that they play. And I mentioned before that there's really going to be this, kind of internal battle for Jeff of playing this high dynamic passing offense with really leaning on what worked last year, which was a really consistent run game with the ability to play defense, make things more difficult with them, take the football away and give your offense a better, upper hand, I guess you will say. So I'm going to go with running backs first. Second is the Leo, which was the defensive end spot opposite of Ashton. I think that's going to be probably the most interesting battle outside of maybe the most important. For me, it's Miles Jernigan. I know Matt's got Tramel Logan kind of being more on the backup side of things behind Ashton. It's going to be really interesting to see what the health situation of Mason Reiger looks like. I mean, we haven't heard much of anything yet to this point. So I think you have to throw his name into the conversation until you're told otherwise. Adonijah Green is a guy that a lot of people are excited about. The list goes on and on of players at that position who I think will see playing time. And then finally is free safety, opposite of MJ Griffin. Tamarion McDonald versus Devin Neal, the returner. The guy got a lot of snaps last year with MJ Griffin out. I think Tamarion McDonald, man, this defense, like you start naming these dudes and you're like, holy shit, the opportunity for this defense to even be better than what we think. I think Tamarion McDonald and Devin Neal and even Blake Ruffin are all really good players. But I'm curious to see who kind of takes the edge there, because you have the battle of being experienced and playing the 1 year under Brom with that flashy transfer. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Those are my top three. Vince, I'll come to you next, man. What do you got?
Oh, I'm going to go with the safety battle first. I think that one's going to be interesting. MJ clearly has that one lockdown, but a lot of times it depends on the package. Only 2 safeties are in the game. But I have a feeling we might use that dime package a little bit more to get an extra DB on the field, especially with none of these guys being afraid to come up and hit somebody. I mean, they're all going to lay the wood. So that's my number one for sure. 2, I'm going to go – I'm just going to go in reverse order of this. I'm going to go with the Leos, mainly because I've talked so much about us being able to move Ashton around that front. It'll be really interesting to see where we put him throughout the game. I mean, he's obviously going to be in his normal end spot to start, but I mean, he might be in a 3-tech, a 0, or whatever. I mean, he's strong enough and he's fast enough to where he can do that. And the running back position, for me, is one that I think Jeff is going to have the most fun with, or he could probably have the second most fun with on this offense outside of Tyler Shough, mainly because he gets to play a balanced style of football. You talk about him maybe struggling with that, Jacob, the balance of run and pass. I think if we would have got Jeff the first go-around, there would have been struggle that you're speaking of. I think that Jeff now, who's been through big-time football, been through these big games, the ups and the downs, I think he understands that it's a balanced offense, and he'll even tell you we don't run a spread offense. We don't run a passing-first offense.
Right.
It's a pro-style offense. So.
And we'll put that stretch play in there from Satterfield and make Louisville fans be like, wait, what?
Hey, outside zone is a phenomenal play. Outside zone is a great play.
Love the stretch. I'm here for
Big
outside
zone.
I agree.
Just not on 3rd and 12.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's it.
That's right. All right, Steve, what do you got, man? What's going on in your brain with the top 3 battles?
It's funny. I will circle right back with you guys. My number 1 was that opposite of Ashton. I tend to think, though, a little birdie told me that they really have been working with TJ with his hand in the dirt a little bit. So I would be interested to see how he comes along. Now, again, you're talking about a kid that was a former 5-star type player, year off last year. But if he's put on 15, 30 pounds in between, not 15 or 30, but find the happy medium
somewhere in there.
In the middle.
Yeah. Somewhere in the middle.
I'll take the
yeah. But I mean, if he's done that, I think he could be a guy, because the linebacker position is solid, especially, with adding Gervonta Davis and some of those guys, that I think if he's a guy that they can move there and use with some quickness, that could be pretty lethal. Now, again, a lot of this depends on Mason too, because if Mason's there, I think Mason might be the guy, as far as that goes. But, just a lot of buzz out there that I feel like we're all confident saying he got injured. Yeah. I think it's how bad is it?
Right.
What is kind of the question there. I'll go running back too, but here's my thing. I'm going backup running back. I think they're a little concerned. When you chat around, it's like, I think they're a little concerned with who's going to step up and be that guy. Mo Turner, I'm with you, Jacob. I love Mo Turner, but Mo Turner's getting into that spot where it's like, all right, man, you got to crap or get off the pot because, we're starting to believe in you. Every year you're getting opportunity. And like last year, there were moments he had some shots that didn't take advantage of.
He ran into so many blockers.
That's the thing. And it's like, man, you see, so I do wonder if someone like Kewan Brown, somebody like that, can maybe jump up there and win that backup spot. And if he can, or does Mo Turner step up? Now, I'll say this. If Mo Turner doesn't this year, I think it's probably last year we see him here. I think at that point, yeah. I think at that point you move on and so be it. But I'm rooting for him. I mean, I think he's a great kid. I mean, I think he's got potential through the roof and would be huge. The other one for me is, does Corey Thornton or Taz Nicholson get that corner opposite of Quincy Riley? Because that's going to be an important spot. Because we went almost 9 quarters last year at one point, and Quincy got 0 targets.
That's a hell of a
So that means somebody is working their tail off on the other end of the field now. And
man, there's nothing more frustrating than that. There's nothing more frustrating than that as a player. And for Quincy, for him to do it for 9 quarters speaks on Quincy's mental, his how mature he is as a football player to be able to be that locked in for that many quarters and that many plays and that many. I mean, I'm excited for him this year. He's going to be fun. Yeah, I think he'll be tremendous. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you've got 2 studs like Ashton and Quincy, I think the answers are a lot of times when you do a panel like this, you're going to say, okay, who's opposite of them? Because they're so good,
Right.
Yeah. But that would be my theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's no coincidence that Mason finished second in sacks last year, right? Because Ashton's got all the attention in the world on him. So you're spot on there. All right, Keith, what we got, man?
All right, I'm going to burn through mine quick. And I went with sort of a hipster theme because I sort of assumed that the common ones were going to be the popular. So one, you can't have a good list without an outside looking in. So OLI, I don't think QB2 battle's done yet. I think Pierce Clarkson v. Harrison Bailey in training camp, Bailey coming into his last year of college football, he's going to have something to fight for. So I don't think that's settled in, and I needed to work another way to get Pierce Clarkson's name into this podcast one more time. Pierce Clarkson. All right, so number 3. You sort of touched on it a little bit, Steve, but the cornerback battle, but not necessarily between Taz and Corey Thornton, but between like Tayon Holloway and Aaron Williams for who's going to be that number 4 guy who's going to start working in the rotation. Aaron Williams is a guy with a ton of potential coming out of high school, playing his senior season on a torn ACL. The kid's an absolute dog. Is he able to beat someone with a couple years of experience on him and a little bit of health to actually start working in and getting in-game reps this year? Number 2, RB3. Unless something completely unprecedented happens for Louisville football this year, we're going to see RB3 on the field this season because running backs just get banged up. So the battle of the Browns, Kewan versus Isaac Brown, because they were very impressed with Isaac's speed in spring ball and working through that. Kewan has improved a lot. He's gotten a lot of glowing reviews from the coaching staff. Who's going to end up winning that battle to get RB3? Who's likely going to see some snaps by the time we get to Boston College, Clemson area of the schedule. And then the final battle, my number 1, the battle for the backup offensive lineman.
Oh, that's such a niche list maker for you, man.
Austin Collins, he's interior O-lineman 1. I think that's fair to play. Madden Sanker, he looked pretty good in spring ball. I think there's going to be a legitimate competition between him, Vic Cutler, and Lance Robinson to see who gets that interior OL number 2 spot when rotations start coming into play or when someone goes down or if Renato can't quite go early in the season. That's going to be a compelling matchup that I'm looking forward to. And yes, I'm biased because I'm a former offensive lineman.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And one of the things that's really interesting with that battle is kind of like a additional nugget is, let's just say, God forsaken, that whoever is playing your left or right tackle goes down. maybe they don't feel as confident with that backup and they look to swing Michael Gonzalez back out to play tackle, right? Then you're talking about feeling more comfortable with maybe inserting a Madden or an Austin at that left guard spot. So I think they have positional versatility with offensive linemen, and getting Madden on the field. I know, he's a young guy and there's plenty of time, but I cannot continue to emphasize enough how important it is to develop that 23 class. You got them here. They were big names, one of the best classes in program history. We got to start seeing some of these guys.
He needs to take a jump this year. This is a year like year 2 for offensive linemen like him is the one where you're like, you've had a year in the strength program to drop the baby fat. You've had a year in the playbook.
It's also
time to go.
They're 20 years old, 21, so that puberty's really starting to kick in. So
yeah, that's why the baby fats that was the funniest thing. Like we would always see these 18, 17, 18-year-olds come in looking like 17, 18-year-olds, and then they'd go back for spring break and look like freaking giants.
Yeah. See, my baby fat is just regular fat now. It doesn't have, a distinction between.
It's crazy how much baby fat and beer fat correlate.
Yeah. Okay, well that was great. Let's transition then. Let's.
By the way, the name of the show, 4 white guys talk about the Battle of the Browns. Are we gonna?
I got that.
We got that. That'd be great. Yeah.
I text them. I said
that's an out of context title.
I'm thinking about that a little bit differently. I'm like, that sounded like that's what went down in my bathroom about 45 minutes before we go. So interesting. We both looked at that a little bit differently, actually. All right, let's go to the next one here. We're looking for our top 3, and that is the top 3 home games. And I'll kick us off again here. And I'm hoping we'll have some. I know we only got what we got, and there's 2 of them that if we put them in our list outside of the fact that they're just there and they're first, I get that maybe, but these might look kind of similar. So I've got SMU 1 just because they're new. We haven't seen them. I'm really excited to see them. Everybody's talking about Preston Stone, the quarterback. What can he do? How awesome is he going to be? So I think it'll be really, really fun to watch that team come in here. They were, obviously really, really strong finish last year. And had an upset in the bowl game, right? Or I forget.
No, they got upset in the bowl game.
Okay.
They were playing in basically a hurricane in the Northeast when they played Boston College in a bowl game. It was just complete slop.
Right. That's right. Well, I do think that they're gonna be such a fun game. I think that'll be a high scoring game, like where we're just talking about offense all over the place. Second, I've got Miami. Miami probably is the best home game, I would say. But I just, the sake of they've been here a couple of times now. Miami is a revolving door of transfers that by the time you play them, typically they're not what you expected them to be preseason. Every year, Miami gets the benefit of the doubt that typically Louisville doesn't get. Maybe I sound like I'm, a little salty, but every year Miami's back. Like, no matter what we do.
Got to win a natty, bro. Got to win a natty to get that respect.
Back. Yeah, exactly. Right. But Miami's going to be, obviously talented. Can't wait to see Cam Ward. They've got a lot of talent there. I think Louisville fans are going to boo the hell out of Tyler Barron, which I don't know. I don't know where we stand on booing college kids. I might boo quietly, like a boo.
Hey, they're getting paid like grown-ass men now.
If you're on that field, regardless of this past 2 years of NIL, I'm going to boo the hell out of you.
If you're getting paid more than I get.
I don't care how old you are.
Yeah, you make more money now in college than I make, so I can boo you with my $14 beer in the seats. Yeah, right. And then finally, Georgia Tech, Haynes King, that team, Trey Cooley last year had that incredible second quarter. They're going to be fun to have here. The bye week before them is still the weirdest thing about this whole year. You're going to 2 games up front and then getting a week off. But I'm really excited for that game, and I think I don't want to take anybody's answer, but that game is a trap game of sorts for me. Trap might not be the right word, but they're a really good team who could in theory be what Louisville was last year in the ACC. They could be good enough to compete to go to the ACC title. That game's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, so I'm going to go with I've got a lot of the same ones as you, Jacob, but for different reasons. Yeah. Miami, obviously, because Miami. But Georgia Tech, Robbie Bell coaching over there.
Okay.
I can't wait to see. I see Robbie I get to see Robbie once a year. I'm going to text him and give him so much shit. I'm going to text him at like 12 o'clock at night, be like, "You up?" And like just keep texting him to like make sure he stays up. Yeah, I'm going to like FaceTime him and stuff. Oh yeah, cannot wait for that one. Kentucky, I'm going to consider a home game. No, I'm kidding. Austin Peay. I'm really excited for Austin P. It's the first game of the year is always my favorite one to. It's always the best tailgate hype. Everybody's excited. The beer goes down so much smoother because there's 0-0 record. I mean,
Yeah.
And it's a 12 o'clock kickoff. Jacob knows I love 12 o'clock kickoffs.
Here for a good nooner, man.
Getting up in the morning, doing breakfast. We did it right. We did it right. The UK game. I mean, like, that's my favorite. That's peak tailgating for me is breakfast, mimosas, beer. So those are my three.
It's big time too because you get that 12 o'clock. It's like an old school Big Ten Ohio State opener.
I'm here for it.
Saturday at noon. Yeah,
there's nothing better.
I mean, same as you guys. A lot of the same stuff. I'll go Miami number one just because you're going to get Miami. You're going to, if they're ranked in Louisville, you're going to get a national game there. You're doing the Teddy Bridgewater jersey honoring that night. You're doing all that stuff. So, I mean, that's going to be the look at us on TV game, I think, for the day. Yep. Number two, I'm with Jacob. I actually put number two Georgia Tech. I'm with you guys. Like, that game, that one really sets the tone.
It does.
We'll get to over under, I think, here in a few, and we'll touch on that again. But, like, that one, you got two games you expect to win. Break, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. You know, it's like, and here's the thing: Georgia Tech thinks they should have beat you. Like, they feel like they blew that game, no matter what happened, and they finished the season pretty good. Like that's not a bad team at all.
They're a pesky team. I'm very high on Georgia Tech,
and I think that coach is good. I mean, I think he can be good.
To not steer the ship too far, their biggest enemy is their schedule. He hired Robbie Bell. It's Georgia Tech's schedule. Nightmare fuel this year.
Yeah.
So,
who do they have? Yeah. Who's on there?
Well, us first off.
They number one.
So they opened the season against Florida State on week 0.
If they win that game,
stay tuned. By the way, we might have a little fun happening for that one. Georgia State, pretty good Fun Belt team. At Syracuse, they brought in a lot of talent this year. That's not a free game. They got VMI the week before they play us. Then bye week, Duke, North Carolina, then Notre Dame, at Virginia Tech, who people are high on. I'm starting to fall into it a little bit, but I still need to see it. Miami, by NC State, at Georgia.
Lord have mercy. That sucks, man. No, but I mean, seriously, if they win, they finish the season 9-3. You're talking about.
Oh my God!
Yeah, one of the
give
best
that coach a lifetime contract.
Correct, right? Exactly. Even 8-4 for them would be considered a huge success with that schedule.
They won't give him a lifetime contract. They'll give him a lifetime Waffle House gift card. They'll give him the black card for Waffle House.
Sign me up.
That's a good deal, man. That's a good deal. Okay.
And then SMU, and I'll tell you why, because it sandwiches that Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
And I think if you can get Georgia Tech and you can get SMU, and SMU's one, while I think they got a good quarterback, I think they got a hell of a group of receivers. I really am a big believer in our defense. Like, I think the defense is going to be, I think it's better than it was last year. I think it's last year's defense, and it's going to be better. So I think we win that game. So that's why I'm kind of holding that as like a take care of business type game against a team that's pretty good. So yeah, I got that one in there too.
All right. Well, then I will throw mine together. Outside looking in, Austin P. Vince, you kind of took that one just because season opener. Although August 31st at noon, it's going to be hot. Be hydrated before you come in.
Yep.
So for number 3, I have Pitt. That's a revenge game after last year. They sort of knocked our season off the rails early. We got them back here. It's a late season game. It's our last conference game of the year. I want to kick Pat Narduzzi's ass. Like, nah, we don't play. It's time. They lost Veyo or whoever their quarterback was last year, so they've got a brand new team in the backfield as well. I want to beat Pittsburgh into the friggin' ground, man.
I love the energy. Yeah, I
do too. I'm here for it.
Number 2, SMU. Similar reasons to you guys. I'm worried about it a little bit because it's the week after Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So you're running the risk of either letting a game beat you twice or the Jeff Brom refractory period of winning a big game and then sort of falling into a lull.
Yeah.
So that's one. Steve, you sort of touched on it. I have faith in the defense. The one place where SMU got a little worse this season was they lost a lot of their offensive linemen to P5 teams. Now, they brought in a few transfers as well, but there's a reason those players were transferring out of the programs they were at. We're going to have to beat them up front to win that game. And then finally, it's Miami. They're arguably the most talented team in the conference. If their coach was anyone other than Mario Cristobal, they'd be touted as a national title contender. They don't have a particularly strenuous schedule coming up to us. They play Florida week 1, and then Florida A&M, Ball State, USF, Vatech, but they have them at home, and Cal. Then they got a bye week before us. Now they play Florida State the week after us, so maybe we get a little lucky and they try to overlook us, but I think this is a game where we're going to need it to be a sellout. We're going to need fans to be in their seats when the game starts, be loud when we're on defense, shut up when we're on offense, and make the Cardinal Stadium actually a legitimate home field advantage to come out with a win there, because this team really freaking talented.
Yeah.
I think the last year we got the benefit of having so many games at home. This year it's, not obviously, you don't have as many, but and the opponents feel in some regards, a little bit less than, because you don't get, some of the games that you had last year, but still very exciting slate of games. With
anytime you can say you're undefeated at home, that's a good thing to say.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we got one more segment left in the show, but before we get to that, guys, we're getting sisters at 31 years old and up on the show. We're getting sisters.
I've had a sister.
I have two. I don't have two. I have one, but I also have.
I know.
The State of Louisville Podcast Network is growing with the latest edition of Push Push, a Formula One podcast hosted by Louisvillians Shannon Kessler and Danielle Davis. Push Push is the girlfriend's guide to Formula One, with weekly episodes previewing and recapping races, discussing major storylines, plus covering probably the most dramatic sport outside the lines in a way that only they can. Tune in anywhere you get your podcasts, or subscribe to the YouTube channel at The State of Lou, and follow them on Instagram at F1 Push Push. We'll be right back. All right, we're in our last one here, and I want to do this one a little bit differently. I think we're all going to have the same answers for this. So I guess I'll start with this question. Ranking our top 3 biggest impact players, would we all agree in some regard, and if not, the microphone will be yours, that it is Ashton Gillotte, Quincy Riley, and Tyler Shough? Does anyone have any disagreements that they would like to voice?
No, that's fair.
No.
Yeah,
so that's what I would go with too.
Yeah, so I guess my question will become, and maybe this one's a little bit outside the box, who, if it's not one of those 3, who is it then? Who are the next 3 guys, or who would you kind of put up there in conversation if you were going to replace one of them? I'll go first, because I actually wanted to make sure that I had an answer, because I figured we would all have the same answers for this one.
Okay.
So I have actually laid out three different players that I think will be that this year. And for me, those next 3 guys are MJ Griffin, TJ Quinn, and Colin Lacey. I think those are the 3 guys that will be the biggest impact players outside of the top 3. So, gentlemen, I know I've kind of switched it up from the show sheet, but I want to come to you all and get your opinion on those next 3. Because, again, we know who the big 3 are on this team, and we all believe they're going to achieve what we have been told they can achieve.
Right. I'm going to go with Pete Nigra, strictly because it is difficult to replace Brian Hudson in that center position. I know you love that, Keith, with your little smirk. But it's very difficult to replace that center position, and that's your captain of the offense outside of the quarterback. Second, I'm going to go with Chris Bell, because it seems like Colin Lacey and Ja'Cory Brooks have that 1 and 2 spot locked down for the receivers. So Chris Bell has a huge year in stepping up and making that jump. Is he just going to turn out to be another Justin Marshall, where it's like, man, this kid looks the part. He looks like an NFL wide receiver, but is he going to take that next step in reaching that goal? And I don't know, third one, I feel like I might be reaching a little bit. That's a little bit difficult, Jacob. Now putting me in a third position spot.
There's only 90 players on.
I was going to say, you want me to filibuster?
I feel comfortable. I mean, tight end. We can go with tight end.
Mark Redmond,
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Mark Redmond, Jamari Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm excited for. I mean, fullback position. We get to see how much
you
Dwayne
just
Martin
wanted-
gets to catch the ball.
Jamari Johnson. Yeah, I will say though on the tight end spot, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Matt asked about that, and Jeff was very coy. His answer was, "Yeah, we think they'll be good," but didn't mention anyone by name. That's Jeff right there, man. He ain't letting the secrets out.
I
They
don't know
like
if he.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Jeff loves them, and he's just not going to tell you that he likes them.
I want to know how much
Exactly.
how confident he is in Jamari and how much of that playbook he's actually grasped, because you could really tell in that bowl game that he didn't. There were a lot of instances where he looked confused, either post snap or pre snap, or it just didn't look comfortable out there. It didn't look like he was playing to his full capability at all. So
Yeah. When I saw this question, I actually went that route.
I'm glad.
Not the top three.
You're
So,
a vet.
yeah, I was ready for that. But I had Mark Redmond at number one. I really think he's going to have a huge year. I actually think Jaleel Skinner's going to have a good year. Like, he's a really talented player. But Redmond feels like he's a Mackey-type guy, Payne Durham at Purdue,
Right.
Bolt type guy. Then I had Monroe Mills. Like, I think that's a really important spot. That tackle spot out there is going to be, and he has the connection already with Shough. If that's good, Louisville can be really, really good. Even though Pete Nigra, which I did get a clarification on his name, and it is
Thank
Pete
you.
Nigra.
Okay. I
refused
stayed
to
away from
say
that one
it.
for a while.
I stayed way away from it for a while, and they were like, "No, it's Nigra. It's easy to say." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
But I think he will be very good in the middle there. But I like Monroe Mills, and I think he's going to have a big year. And then MJ Griffin. I mean, I think MJ Griffin was the best defender on the team when he was on the team 2 years ago, playing. I guess on the team, but playing in that role. We were totally different when he played and when he didn't. You saw that in a single season.
he wouldn't be here this year if he played last year. He would not be.
Absolutely not. No way. He's an NFL guy.
Yep.
I think it is, when you talk about getting Ashton back and getting Quincy back, it's like Vince said, I think you also can throw in there, you got MJ back too. Like, I mean, these are NFL caliber guys that are going to be playing there.
And the best part about that, Steve, is seeing him. He had a knee sleeve on one of the compression ones in the spring, and just hearing that he's not wearing much of anything. He probably wears it every once in a while for comfortability with this, just feeling like it's stable. Having something there a lot of times makes your knee just feel better. I know it does me mentally. But hearing that and seeing him move, I mean, it doesn't look like he skipped or missed a step at all. Kudos to that training staff. They're unbelievable in that room. They will get you back from an ACL tear like no other. Been through it twice.
And kudos for the patience to not. I mean, he was moving around really well in spring ball, and kudos to them for saying no, dude.
It's so hard. It's so hard to oh man, that's a lot of maturity. It's a lot of maturity.
For sure.
All right, Steven. So my OLI, putting here strictly because I want to infuriate your colleague Mark Ennis, Brock Travelstead. Kickers matter. Hey, we laugh, but games come down to kickers sometimes.
Hey, at least we're not playing college football 25 kids. I still can't kick.
But I would not be shocked to see a game come down to his foot at some point this season. I think he's going to be a player that comes in and matters. So that's why I've got to put him as the OLI.
That scares me. That kind of scares me, because we joked last year, he'll give you a 53-yarder, like it's like there's nothing to it, and then he'll miss the 29-yarder, and you're like, what the hell, man? Like, come on. What are we doing here? So hopefully he'll bounce back, man.
I had on position battles, I actually had kicker was one I wrote down, was like, is Brock going to lock that thing down? Because that kick he made against NC State, that's as good of a pressure kick as you're going to see.
Yeah,
that was incredible. And then
no doubt.
And then it's like, okay, what possessed his body for the next 6 weeks? So hopefully
I
it gets
think
rolling.
you got to change. I don't know if his Instagram handle is still Legatron, but after those last 6 games, you might want to change your Instagram handle after that.
Well, I mean, you see how important a kicker is, like the Notre Dame game. You realize how out of hand that could have been if their kicker didn't make 2 50-plus yard field goals against us to keep it tight. Like
Absolutely.
a good kicker makes so much of a difference. Another name.
You all should be good. That's all you do at practice. All right, go ahead.
A name that I'm surprised we haven't said already is a key impact player. Colin Lacey. Baby needs his bottle, and Jeff Brom loves the slot guys. Think of him as the why am I blanking on his name? Purdue receiver from Louisville. I'm blanking on his name right
Milton
now.
Wright?
Played for the Cardinals. Rondale Moore. Yes.
Rondale Moore.
Look at him to sort of fill a similar role in the Louisville offense. I love you, Vince. So I think he's going to be the sort of security blanket early in the season. If there are some struggles with having 3 new starting offensive line components and Shough needs to start getting the ball out quick, I could look for him to be baby needs his bottle. Shough needs Colin Lacey.
Yeah.
Number 2, another guy we haven't said, Thor Griffith. I think having a elite disruptor at the defensive tackle position unlocks so much potential for your edge rushers and for your secondary, because either you're going to have to one-on-one Ashton Gillotte, because if Thor's on the inside, center and a guard are going to have to double team him, or you're going to have an offensive lineman in your quarterback's lap. So you're either going to have to force changes in how the offensive line lines up. You're going to have to run like max protection schemes, something to free things up. And Thor, he's a freak athlete, and I can see him being that kind of disruptor. And then number 1, Vince, you said it, Pete Nigra. Playing starting center, like just having a consistent snapper of the football.
Yeah.
And it sounds silly to say, but it's so important. Ask Alabama about it in their national semifinal game. The snap was low. They couldn't run the play.
Awful practices. I mean, awful practices after one bad snap. One bad snap in a practice in a game can completely ruin the center.
You get the yips, man. You get the yips.
And the other thing that's sort of weighing on like why I think Pete's going to be so important is Matt's best friend, Pro Football Focus, I believe, ranked the top 10 interior defensive linemen coming back into college football this year. Louisville matches up against 4 of the top 5.
Wow.
Like, our center and guards are going to be in hell this year. It's not going to be fun. So a tall task. You're also stepping into a great player like Brian Hudson. So Pete Nigra, very important player.
See, I'm anxious to see Thor in this bear technique, the 0, 2 3s, and 2 5s, where we could potentially, like we've been talking about, move Ashton down to maybe a 3 technique with Thor right there in the 0, or even a Cub front with the middle linebacker in a 0 and Thor in a 3 tech. I mean, those are stuff I'm like, fuck that as an offensive coordinator.
Vince, Renee Conga's another one that we got him late, so we kind of forget. But they say he can bounce in and out a little bit. I mean, like they have a lot they can do, man.
Yeah, exactly. And the fronts and stuff is what I'm really excited for them to play with this year. And I mean, having the confidence to be able to put a dime front out there and what you might consider a typical rundown, I mean, is huge. It's like, remember when we would put Josh Harvey Clemens out there? Like, Josh Harvey Clemens was not a natural middle linebacker, not by any means, but he was a hard-hitting safety that knew how to play the run. And that's a lot, I mean, like what I think we might be seeing this year in a dime package, or even when we want to go to heavier packages with a bear or a Cub front.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to transition us here into the last little segment of the podcast, win projections. We teased it earlier. We're going to be talking about a little bit of over-under. As of right now, according to DraftKings, and I believe FanDuel has the same line, the over-under total for Louisville is 8.5 games. Now, we've talked about this before, so I think I know Jacob and Vince's answers to this. So, Rummage, I'm going to go to you first. Do you think we're going to go over or under, and why do you think that'll be the case?
I think we'll go over. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be another 10-win season for sure or anything, but I do think we have 6 that are – I'll be shocked if we – now, of course, you guys know we've watched enough football. When you say 6, I feel like 6 wins for sure. You can mix and match them, of course.
Right.
You know, you might drop that Virginia game, but you're going to pick one up somewhere else. But I think when you look at Austin Peay, you look at Jacksonville State, you look at Virginia, Boston College, Stanford, and Pitt. I think that's 6 wins right there. So then you say, okay, Georgia Tech, SMU, Miami, Clemson, UK, where am I finding 3 more wins? I think you can. I mean, I think SMU, Georgia Tech are games you can win. I mean, of course, I'm a little bit of a homer, but I mean, I really kind of expect them to go in and beat UK this year. I mean, I won't be shocked if that's not the case when they get there, just with how the teams are setting up back and forth. Clemson, until they do it, I can't pick it. I've not watched them do it. But without just running down every single game, that's usually how I do my over-unders. I say, how many can I bet would I bet a big chunk of change on? And for me, that's 6. And I've got 2 more out there in Georgia Tech and SMU I'm pretty confident about. So I think they end up somewhere in that 9-win range. So, I'm going over again. Like I said, not predicting a national title or anything like that this year. But I do think they can get back to 9.
Yeah, Vegas did a fantastic job setting this line.
I'm going to go over. Shocker to Jacob and Keith and Steve. I don't know if you have heard the story about me the first time on this show. I predicted us to beat Ole Miss by a significant amount, and Jacob still loves to hold that over my head and make fun of me. But
it's the confidence that I love you for, buddy.
Until you've been on 93.9 The Ville, let everybody listen to you, and you say, this Alabama team's got a bunch of young, unproven receivers.
Oh, no.
Steve, I was on the team that was prepping for them. I thought we were going to win.
No clue that those freshmen and sophomores was going to be the best receiving core of all time.
Yeah, of all time,
seriously,
right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go over, and I'm honestly going to have us going undefeated going into Miami. I think Notre Dame's a fraud. I'm not buying that. I don't think SMU is as good as they think they are. I don't think Tech is as good as they think they are. Miami, I don't think they're as good as they think they are either. I think we'll win that one. But it's still kind of a toss-up for me. I'm with you, Steve. I don't think we'll beat Clemson. I can't predict us to beat Clemson. I can see it, but like you, I haven't physically seen that.
Yeah.
And then Stanford's one that kind of worries me going out west. I'm a little nervous about that. But again, I don't believe in West Coast football, so I think we should be fine.
We got a bye week before it too, so head out a few days early.
And I'm with you on this. I think last year's game for me, UK U of L, felt a lot like the first one with Charlie Strong, where he lost, but you could feel the tide swinging. You could feel the energy and the juice swinging back our way, and I think this is the year that we take – you kind of felt – at least we did with Sat. We always knew like there was a shot and an opportunity for us there. We were freaking favored in a lot of those games against Kentucky.
Right.
So I think this is a year for us to go in there and beat them. I seriously optimistic. I think we can win 11 in the high side, but I'm not. 10 is where I'm setting my bar.
Yeah.
Like 10 is it. And Jeff, I'm sure, is thinking 10 too. Like if he comes from that Coach Lampley tree. He loves to talk about Coach Lampley all the time, and it's always improving on the next year. Like 10 wins. All right, that's the bar now. That's where we got to get every single year now.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And I know we've only got a couple more minutes here. I'll keep this very, very quick. I think best case scenario is 10-2. I will be different from you all. I think this is the year the Clemson monkey on our back is finally taken off. I think this is the year we go to Death Valley and win. If there was ever
if that happens, my dad has to go to every single Clemson time. Like my dad is got that for his birthday. Tickets to the Clemson game, and if we win, he is now required to go to all of them.
Yes, exactly. I'm right there with you, David. You got to get to every game from that point on. But I think that they'll get that one. And if they don't, I think that it's either that or Kentucky, in my opinion. I think they'll get one or the other. Sure. I would personally, everybody wants to beat Kentucky. I would prefer Clemson personally, just because that game matters more in the landscape of ultimately winning the conference.
You say that now.
I know. I said it last year too. I said it last. I've said it with all of the big games. I want to beat Kentucky, but I want to win. I want to win conferences and start to be able to play big boy football. And of course, beating Kentucky is doing that. I will say worst case scenario is 7-5, and those losses could come with slip ups. There's a lot of opportunity for slip up in this schedule. There's a lot of opportunity to lose games like to the Miamis and Notre Dame and Clemson and Kentucky. That's potentially 4 losses right there. So you're talking about, one more on top of it, potentially a slip up. I think in that case, we're talking about potentially an injury that caused your team to then maybe have to play younger guys, and that where that fall off could be. But I do think that they'll go over, and I think that 10 wins is where I'm putting them at this year.
So I will take the contrarian point of view again. I think it's very easy to bet the under on this. So Steve, to your point,
Keith. You don't use big words around here. What are we talking about? played fullback, and I took a lot of hits to the head. Do you expect me to understand that?
There's a reason O linemen are the smartest players on the field.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the center, maybe, yes.
The point being, there are 6 games on this schedule that I think the fan base would be right to be furious if we lost. And those were the 6 that you pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
Then you have the 4 games that we're underdogs in, at least according to the guys out in the desert right now. So if we can sneak out 1 or 2 of those games where we're dogs, do we trust this team not to screw up when we're a favorite? Not to lose one of those oopsie-daisy games? Not to slip up against SMU at home after coming back off a big win against Notre Dame, or lose bad to Notre Dame, try to change things up and let one bad game beat us twice? Like, it's a tough line, and it's one that's a lot easier to take the under, in my opinion, than take the over. Like Miami. What if this year Cristobal finally figures it out? Like, that talent?
See, I'm not sold on Cam Ward either. I text you guys this in the group message. I saw that video of him and Shedeur working out. He's shown up late.
Somebody said he was late. Shut up.
He's shown up late. He's bitching at Shedeur. No, Shedeur wasn't late. Cam Ward was late.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Cam Ward was late, and he's bitching at Shedeur the entire workout. Shedeur's on his case, like, why are you late? Why are you late to the workout? And Cam's trying to play it all. I mean, I don't think he has any leadership intangibles. I mean, you could have all the talent in the world, but if you're not going to be a leader and do the right things on the football, like off the field, that's not going to correlate to on the field success.
Well, Vince, you're not the only one not sold on him. Jeff Brown wasn't either. He passed that visit right on over. So.
I mean, I don't blame him. The head cases, there's no reason the same reason we didn't even sniff Tate Martell whenever he was in the portal. Hell of a ball player, all the talent in the world. Why would I want to bring that in when we just came off a 2-10 season where we already had enough cancers in the locker room?
Yeah, that's a great point, man. That's a great point. Well, that will wrap up the show. Fantastic one, Steve. I really appreciate you joining us.
I can do this all night. This is great.
The virtual doors are always open. Keith kind of alluded to it earlier. We might have a little conversation about week 0 and some things we might be doing for that week for some football watching. So we appreciate you, Vince. I know you got a movie to get to, so we
yes, sir. Deadpool comes out tonight.
Didn't even know that.
I'm Steve. I'm one of those guys. I'm a huge Star Wars, Marvel nerd. Like I am in college.
Same.
Robbie Bell and I in college every Thursday night were midnight showings of every Star Wars and Marvel movie that came out. Man. My girlfriend's the same way. We're about to go hit. We got to go see Deadpool.
Well, there you go, man. Well, and Keith, thank you so much for producing the show. Can't thank you enough. Make sure everyone, if you're tuning in, you subscribe it to the YouTube channel. Please help us get over that 1,000K or that 1,000 mark. And then the sky's the limit from there. Follow us on Twitter at Pink Seeds Pod. Be sure to check out Steve each weekday on 93.9, 10 a.m. to 12 p. We will be back soon for more football talk season shortly coming our way. Gentlemen, till then, go Cards.